So this again is on the middle layer, just working on a locked layer, working on a layer above it to make it a little bit easier. So you could use the pen tool to create this L on the outlines, but I'm going to go right down the middle and use the Shift key, and I'll show you why in a second. So it has a fill of white and a stroke of black, so I'm going to take the fill off, and the stroke is highlighted. And so depending on if you have your stroke panel now up at the top, it gives you the options up here to increase the point size just by clicking on the arrow. The drop-down arrow gives you a section, and you can also click inside the box and just use the mouse to scroll it open like this. And the reason I'm just using this center line and the stroke is that it gives me a perfect segment all the way. The width is the same all the way around. When you click on the stroke, just remember you have these caps, which are the curved shapes on the outside edge. This one that puts it just off the point, and then this one that keeps it right on the edge there, which is the default. However, as this is a stroke, you can only stroke it. There's no fill, so what you have to do is to go to Object and come down to Path. And when you see this, it says Outline the Stroke, and what happens, it now creates an outline that's no longer a stroke. So now it does have a fill and a stroke there. And the reason doing so is it gives you a little bit more freedom. I don't think I could match the same thickness all the way around if I outlined it with the pen tool. But you could try it. You can try doing the pen tool on that. So the L shape is there, and then the M, just zoom in just a little bit, is I'm going to try the same thing and just do part of it and then flip it to do the other side so it's symmetrical. So I'm taking the pen tool and I'm starting down at the bottom, kind of estimating the top of it here, and coming down this direction. And I'll take the fill out, and now it's just this pen stroke right there. I just move it so you can see it, and undo it, puts it exactly back to where it was before I moved it. And just click inside the stroke and increase the stroke size. Now there's a couple ways, things that are happening here. It's not matching the bottom part down here or the top piece up at the top. So just taking a look at the stroke, when you see these corners and the end caps, the corners do a similar thing that you can round them off or end them off like that. The only tricky part is it's not perfectly aligned. So I'm just going to keep it to start off and just use a little bit of a shape builder. So I'm going to take the direct selection tool and just move this down below the serif, which she has this serif here, and down below this one, and this one's okay up at the top. A number of ways to do this, but again, just going to go to Object, Path, and outline that stroke. So now it's a shape. And this way I can clip these pieces with the Shape Builder tool. So I'm going to draw a box up at the top. I'm going to give it a color so you can see the difference between it. Okay. And could draw it again, or I'm just going to Option and put a copy of it down here. And do the same over here. So now I have these four elements, the black line, Shift key with the pink boxes, so they're all selected. And I'll just move it so you can see that they're all connected. And just go to this Shape Builder. We'll talk about it later in some of the tutorials, but this one comes up when I have the Shape Builder. And just hold the Option key and drag or click on these shapes, and that disappears. So you're using the shapes to create a shape. So that's the first part. The second one is the little serif that they have, that she has right here. So I'm going to do the rectangle tool for this one. And just make a shape right here, like so, and zoom out of it. And just to keep it symmetrical, I'm going to take this little serif and Option and duplicate it and place it down here. Okay. And I'm going to Option and just put a copy right down here at the bottom. So this is the shape. We have the half of the M with these serifs. So I'm going to Shift key the selection that collects these pieces. I could use the Shape Builder to put it together, but just to throw in another tool, if you have Window and Pathfinder, and I have it open already here, and just the first one is going to unify that section, and now that piece is unified into that piece right there. So now you can see that this part is going to flip over, there's a rotation tool and a reflect tool. So when I click on there, I can just come right down to the intersection, hold the Option key and click. It's going to set the insertion point of where I clicked as the point of rotation. And just copy it, flips it right over. Okay. Zoom in a little bit here so I can see that I'm not directly there, but I can just use the arrow keys to tip it over just one time. So now I have two sections. I'll give this a different color just so you can see the difference. And Shift key the two of them so they're both selected. Just moving it and putting it back so you can see it. And just making it all one piece. Now the only part that's left is just attaching this bottom part. Just zoom into it so you can see it up close. And just make a selection box around enough to catch both of them. And that gives me that selection. Now depending on which color is on top, what shape is the color on top of it, is going to be that section. So I'll give this back to a color here. Okay, so it's almost there. I'm just going to make a copy of it, an Option, and set it over here in case I mess up. And drop this one down just a little bit so you can see the difference between the two. So hopefully you can see there are now two shapes created, but there's a little bit of an overlap onto this part. And I could just cut it out so I have it. But if you do this as a project for a group, an actual company, you may want to keep a copy of it so it has this section. But it's kind of overlapping, underlapping, and overlapping on the side. So while all of it's selected, I'm just going to go back to the Shape Builder tool and take a look. I could just click and drag this on top of it, and that makes that shape with the Shape Builder right there. Pretty easy. And this one over here, just click and drag, and it makes that piece right there. So now, when I move this, you'll see it has a little breakup of the sections here. And then just undo all those to bring it right back. And there it goes. Now if I want to fill this a color and keep this all the same, then I can Shift key all three of the yellow parts. So, and that'll give me that connection. So you can actually do the coloring of the swatches or the gradients along that edge. And so here there are three separate gradients going across, but with the gradient tool you can see the three gradients, and at times you can just click at it and it treats it all as one piece. So it makes it a little bit easier to manipulate. So again, this one, just Shift keying to select all of these guys. And remember the gradients, if you click in here, if you pick on it, it'll start them in the library. I've made the window, the thumbnails, large thumbnails. And I can just click on any one of these, or see if I like the blue as the design, or purple. And again, with the gradient tool, I can just click, drag that part too. Okay. Now keep in mind these aren't grouped together, so I'll just make a selection box around all of it. I can right-click or go to Object Group. And that gives me that function here. And in the Layers panel, I can just hide this section, move this down. And again, just to give some effects, I keep going back to the drop shadow because it's a quick one to kind of elevate it from a little distance there. And click off of everything. Hit the Tab key, hides all of the toolbars. If you hit the F key, it hides everything and just gives you this section to let you do a Command Shift 4 to make that shape right there. And just hit Escape to get out of it.